This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. I've been practicing during the break. It's Greg Ciaccio. Greg Ciaccio.
Perfetto.
Greg
Perfecto.
Ciaccio is Vice President of Creative Services and the Managing Director of Location Services for Modern VideoFilm. He was recently involved in helping create DIG for the USA Network. And Greg, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks.
So Modern VideoFilm, how would you describe that?
We are a full-service post-production facility. We do front-end, which is dailies, all the way through to finishing and even beyond. The company has two main divisions, creative services and content services. The creative is all the front-end stuff up until you deliver it to the theater or to the TV network. And then the backside is all the repurposing. We do a lot of work for iTunes, for Apple, so all of the delivery to Amazon, Netflix, et cetera. That's all the content side.
Wow.
Well, let's talk about the fun stuff, the creative side. You're VP of Creative Services. Now, Creative Services tend to be, and other companies, is the guys that do the graphics. What's Creative Services defined for you folks?
We call the Creative Services division that because it differentiates from the back end, the content. So basically, it's the dailies. It's getting involved with the filmmakers early on, making sure that the look that is envisioned from the very beginning is carried through all the way to delivery. So we call that the creative side versus repurposing of content, which would just be the content services side.
So it sounds like you get deeply involved in pre-production. You're not just waiting for the lights to go on.
No, we get involved depending on the project. For instance, on let's say Grand Budapest or some of the features we worked on, there's a vision that the director has, and that director and the director of photography or cinematographer get together and they discuss that with the colorist. So if you think about the final colors, the last place where the look is actually created, we get involved in the beginning because, as we all know, people start looking at the movie in the first day of dailies. If you actually start creating a daily that doesn't look like the final, people will be very shocked when they actually see it at the end. So what we aim to do is make sure that our dailies colorist works with our final colorist and the DP and the director to make sure that that look starts at the very beginning and is carried through editorial and all the way through to the end.
So do you have DIT services on set?
We actually, we have a DIT that works for us, not as a DIT, but has been a DIT. For instance, he was the DIT on Life of Pi, Duck Grossberg, who will be in the picture that you see. We work with filmmakers. We work with the whole camera crew, so we know exactly where our limits are. For instance, when we do a prep, we'll take our daily system out to prep, and we can actually take the files right out of the camera, and we can load them into our system and show them what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is really cool.
Would you even thought of that 5 years ago?
There's no way, because the gear was way too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that requires a significant workflow, because if you're going to color films at the very beginning on set, you want to make sure you can take all that color off and fix it the way you want it at the end in post. How do you avoid, what kind of workflow were you putting in place to allow you to keep track of all these files and to make sure you know what lookup tables you're applying to the film?
Right. So we use the ASC CDL for all of our color. I was part of the ASC.
Slow that down again.
The ASC.
You lost me. I'm gone.
American Society of Cinematographers developed a color decision list, much like an EDL.
A color decision list.
Yes.
Okay.
So the CDL is the color equivalent of an EDL, which we all use to edit our programs. So I was on the ASC CDL committee 10 years ago. When I was a Technicolor and started their production services division, we started working on a language, a cross-platform language for color.
So basically you're applying metadata to a clip, so you don't change the basic clip, you're just changing the color that's applied to the clip.
Yes, it's all non-destructive. So everything we do keeps the original file in the log C or whatever log flavor is being shot, whether it's Sony or Arri, et cetera, and all of that look information is simply non-destructive layers of metadata on top of that.
Well, what's the difference between then a lookup table, which we've heard lots about, and the color decision list, which has just shocked the heck out of Mike?
Yes, a LUT is use it or throw it away.
Anytime you use acronyms, I go to sleep.
A LUT literally is a stat. Imagine someone colored something and said, now that color that you just colored, you have to use that on every single take and every scene. Your hands would be tied. You can't do that. You want to be able to change it. So CDL is actually something that you can change. Much like, printer lights in the film days. I want my scene at 30, 28, 30. And then the timer can go 30, 28, 30 and go, wait a minute, it's a little green. I'm going to take it down 1 or 2 notches. That's the equivalent of a CDL. It's something that you can manipulate, you can set it, and then later on you can adjust it rather than a LUT, which is you lose it or you throw it out and start over.
I got so much to learn. I mean, I know CDL, but it's just been a while since I've even heard the term.
Yeah.
What software uses a CDL?
Pretty much all of them.
Define that.
We use ColorFront OSD is our main color engine for our product. Nomad is basically our daily system. Nomad is basically a solution that uses at the core, at the heart, ColorFront OSD. So ColorFront uses the CDL, Autodesk Luster uses it, Avid, pretty much everyone. And this is back 8 years ago or 9 years ago when we took the CDL, we ran around at NAB to all the vendors and said, here's a CDL thing, you have to integrate it into your color corrector. And we got a lot of, in the beginning we got some, we have other things to do, and then gradually, of course, as it started gaining momentum, more and more people realize this is really here to stay.
In terms of efficiency, has it saved you a lot of time, or saved them a lot of time, or saves a lot of time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, you have a split title. You're the vice president of creative services, but you're merely the managing director of location services.
Right.
What's the managing director of location services do?
Basically, I own the location services business, which means all of the dailies that go out in the field, anything that happens outside of our 4 walls, and that can be in Santa Monica, at our facility there, at our facility in Burbank, or any of the other sister facilities we have. Basically, if it's on location, for instance, DIG was in Israel, they were in Croatia, they were in Albuquerque, and so, yeah, exactly. And that's actually what I wanted to kind of highlight is the system that we actually brought to Croatia is a picnic basket-sized daily system. It's unique, and it really worked for this show because there's 3 main ways you can do dailies. One is you can take a drive and you can fly it the old-fashioned way, right? The other way is you can get a big enough pipe where you can send all the dailies files back to home base and then do the dailies there. The other one is send the equipment and the people out to location. And the reason why we do this is often the creatives want to be involved in the forming of this look, as I talked about. So Gideon Raff, who created Homeland and Tyrant, which was another show we did on location in Morocco, knows us, and we set up in a hotel in 2 different cities in Croatia, in Dubrovnik and Split. And what we do is we set up in a hotel room. We don't need a lift gate. It's not a 600-pound behemoth box like it used to be. I mean, when I started building these, there were 2-people boxes that weighed probably a couple thousand pounds altogether. Now we've gotten down to 1 box. It's about 60 pounds that you can carry on as baggage.
Now, what's in the box, and what does the box do?
The box does everything from ingesting the dailies all the way through to creating the deliverables, including all the complex color correction in the middle.
So it's basically a DIT box on wheels.
With the ability to do full deliverables in over 100 frames a second. The rendering speeds have got, yes. What we did is we took, the old Mac tower, which was this big.
Yeah.
We now have the little Mac trash can, goes in on its side. It's much faster than the old boxes, and we can create everything that's needed. In this case, editorial gets DNX36. We have PIX for viewing. People all over the world can log in. And then we have DNX 175X, which is a very high-quality, low-compression codec for promo. That's all created on location, and we can do dual LTOs. Because even though that picnic basket has all the necessary smarts and everything we need for dailies, there's little add-ons that are all Thunderbolt, which is great because, Thunderbolt, 1 little connector. So if we want 1 LTO, we plug in 1 Thunderbolt. We want a second, we loop it through. So we can create anything, anywhere, and send it back.
And the benefit is because you're using these color decision lists, any change you make there can be changed later in post, but what you're giving people is something which is much closer to the final look than if they were simply looking at the raw images coming off dailies.
That's a good point, yes. And often final colorists may not use a CDL because the CDL is admittedly a restricted set of color. There's no secondaries, there's no windows, but what it does give you is it gives the visual effects team the ability to know what the scene's supposed to look like. Because often you give the visual effects team the raw files, and all they see is log, and they go, okay, what's this supposed to look like? Well, you know what? Take that and apply the CDL, and now you know what it's supposed to look like, and now you can create the effects that match the dailies.
Well, let's take a look at DIG specifically. You're on location around the world. You've got this magic box. What are you doing on a daily basis? What's the workflow?
Okay. Basically, on most of the shows we do, including Dig, there are 2 drops, the lunch drop and the wrap drop, depending on how far away they are. But the nice thing is we're portable. We can be anywhere. So if they're going from Dubrovnik to Split, gone are the days where you have to send a driver and wait. We can travel to the next location. So we get the either the hard drive from the DMT or DIT, or they can give us S cards, because, again, we're close to set now. So we don't have to worry about the distance. We ingest the material. We apply the CDL that came from set, if there is one. If there isn't one, we create the look alongside with the DP.
Now, wait.
Yeah.
They're giving you the camera masters coming off set. That's got to make you nervous. I mean, you're holding a $10,000 shot in your hands.
We prefer to get a copy of it. And most productions do too, right?
Really?
So you'll have a DIT on a feature film where you've got airy raw, a lot of material. You'll often have a separate person establishing the look and a separate person just doing the data. On a TV show, because it's ProRes and because the files are much more compressed, generally we'll have one person, or they'll have one person doing that. So what we prefer is they take the card, they copy it to their local RAID, make 2 shuttle drives or 1 shuttle drive, send us the shuttle drive. Now, if we bring it across and they say, hey, we didn't get something, they have a copy upstream. So that's the preferred working workflow. So we take that, we ingest it into the box, we'll do color, we'll either create color from scratch or we'll apply a CDL. We will sync the sound, and largely these days, gone are the days of key code and 30-frame audio and 24. So basically, everything is all at 23.98. It should all match up if everything went well on set. But we QC it all. We make sure that everything's in sync, and if it's off, we'll fix it. Then we can either wait for the DP/director and review everything with them, because now everything's in the system. We're all ready to go. Once they look at it and say, yep, great looking scene, I love it, because we're calibrated. We're in an environment where we have basically the environment we have at our post facility. Whereas when they're on set, we're not sure exactly. They could be running and gunning. They could be in an area, something could got bumped. So if at all possible, it's great for the DP and or director to be there to say, yep, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what we saw, or that's not what we saw, but I trust your gear.
So now the show's airing.
Yeah.
Dig is on the air, and you look at it.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of?
The ability for us to jump to every location seamlessly without really impacting the production, without having them have any pain saying that things took too long, we had to wait a day, is the immediacy of it, and how we can take something so portable, so powerful, and have it anywhere.
Yeah, speaking of all this portability and everything on this efficiency, cost savings?
I would say cost savings in that, for instance, some of the bigger pieces of gear cost thousands to transport, and you need a lot of lead time to transport it. A particular thing happened in one of the legs of Dig, because we went on location several times with them. They were going to go one direction, and it turns out that there wasn't sufficient bandwidth to send the production files. So with 3 or 4 days' notice, we basically took the gear on the plane with us. Walked in with it, set it right up.
For people that want to learn more about the tools and toys you've put together, where can they go on the web?
www.mvf, as in modernvideofilm.com.
And the Vice President of Creative Services for Modern Video Film and the Managing Director for Location Services is Greg Ciaccio. And Greg, thanks for joining us today. It's been a fun visit.
Thanks for having me.
Back. There's so many more questions.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.